as we walk through the forest, if you're not careful, it's easy, of course, just out of habit to think, you're just walking through the same forest every day. But in my world, every day the forest is new. Because the consciousness is fresh. It's not today's consciousness. It's just ever fresh. And so it sparkles with sensitivity and joy. And everything arises and is perceived in this joy. And so you see the joy in them also, without imagination or fantasy. Actually, I see that, life in its physical manifestation is always changeful. Sometimes some changes come that seem very intense, and the reflex is to, the reaction come, like, oh, why is this happening? And oh, we'd love to, want it to finish and so on, because our physical bodies, we feel threatened by it, and usually it comes down to the fear of the loss of life. But even if the death of the body is not really all that death really means. In fact, that's a very small thing, actually. Death, if you want to say something, is to be even alive physically, but unaware of the truth that is your fundamental existence. To live in the narrow realm of the mind. I say narrow because when we are identified with personhood, it might seem to be, oh, it's such a big world. Yes, it's big in size relative to a person, you may say. But the way in which we perceive is very narrow, very often shaped by conditioning and so on, you see. But when you see from the true light of consciousness, the light that creates and reveals all these things, it is not the biological life that is representative of life. Life is spirit, and life is the dance, the power of the vital force that is the animating power of all living things. And the Spirit of God, the Spirit of truth, you see? Together I call just consciousness, including the elemental forms also. There's a oneness in it. Of course, if you look and say, but, you cannot say things are one, because even if you look only at trees, a eucalyptus tree and an apple tree are very, very different. Yeah, yes, different on the surface of things. But when you understand that if you reduce things right down to their elemental form, and even the DNA of the elements are one, and I call that consciousness. And there's a way within you, your own being, in which that just speaks as pure truth. It's not something you deduce only with your head, but it just resonates with the quality of truth, you can say. So when things, in the light of saying that, when things appear, some situations we don't expect or feels to threaten our projection and our desire to live in the way that we largely imagine, then it feels like, oh, it's a curse. Why are these things happening to us, and all of these things. But if we change our attitude, when you're seeing, in fact, from the deeper place as consciousness itself, every change, even those that comes through strong suffering states, you may say, if you want, or felt to be challenging, met with the right attitude in your heart, and as from the place of the impersonal consciousness, everything can be transformed into a gift. It's just a way of raising to higher levels of consciousness. I really wish to say this, because if we see it only personally, yes, it can be very gloomy, in fact, very, very deeply unpleasant. But seeing with the openness of consciousness that is not trying to figure things out all the time, but resting in the might of your being, you see what nature is doing. And it is always, not just nature as in the physical nature, but the nature of the life, even through the mind, in its seen in the true light. It's blossoming. It's blossoming. Yeah. When an olive tree is really cared for, not just for its fruit, but also for its beauty, when those who take care of it has an aesthetic appreciation for it, it is a glorious tree. It's the same thing with a human being. When we have, a sense of the beauty of a balance and harmony, of a life that is expressed in wisdom and deep appreciation of its own source, a life that is rounded and healthy. It's even the human form is majestic, even because of the inner man, because of the inner one. You see, I don't know. I'm just talking like that. I'm not teaching anybody anything. Just saying what I observed. Just walking through the forest. We lived, myself, I have to say, I was born in a place that's like a forest by the sea. And we never really appreciate it, when that's all you knew. When you're so familiar with something, you stop really seeing it and appreciating it for what it is. And you may see others appreciating it. We used to have tourists coming to our town, Port Antonio, in Jamaica. Many, many tourists in the early days. Many Americans would come there. The ships would come and so on. And they love it. We have a harbor, which is claimed to be the 8th greatest natural harbors in the world. And lots of bananas, sugar cane, coconut is shipped to different parts of the world from there. So people would come and they appreciate. And I even told you one time, I said that one time we were working, a bunch of children, we were playing, cricket on the road at the back of Love Lane. A few of us, I don't remember clearly, it's vague, And some tourist people were coming by on this quiet road, and one of them said, "You live in paradise. You live in paradise." And we were playing, "Oh, thank you," because we knew they meant something nice as a kind of compliment. But we could not really appreciate and absorb that, you see. You live in paradise. And it was only after many years later when I had the opportunity to travel abroad, and the first place I've traveled to is in England, United Kingdom, and lived there for some years in the city, of London. And then the first time traveling back after maybe 5 years to Jamaica. And as we are coming into along out of the Blue Mountains and along the coast, as we turn one particular corner on the hill, then the entire harbor and the town of Port Antonio comes into view. And I remember on that occasion, as the bus turned and I was on the left side, I could see this amazing scene. In my heart, I felt, this is paradise. So my point is that actually, my point would be that, when you are so used to something, you're not able to appreciate it. You need to have some contrast. That is consciousness, this interrelated contrast. You go to someplace else. I'm not saying London is ugly. London is beautiful in another way, but it's a city of stone and concrete. But coming back into the nature of Puerto Tony and looking and saying, whoa, now this is home, this is paradise, you see. And that is, I'm sure that experience really opened my eyes and kept them open in a certain way. So much so that a certain openness and a sensitivity and an awareness of my environment stays with me. And in fact, I've been happy to see that even in very harsh climate, and something sees a beauty in them. Living there may be something different, I don't know. But my eyes perceive a beauty, maybe because it also seizes consciousness.